Okay, we're going to go through and cover every single injury that we have just on the radar for week 10. We're going to be talking about some replacements that you can get into with some different options. But first, I'm very sorry if I sound horrible. I'm very sorry if this is going to be a bad video. I am just extremely sick, so excuse that. Nonetheless, let's go through. One other thing. Let me go through and highlight what we actually have over there on Underdog Fantasy. Now, y'all know Underdog Fantasy is the sponsor of the channel. I mean, they allow us to do pretty much everything that we do. So, of course, thank you so much to Underdog Fantasy. They have a ton of cool drafts that you can get in. If you want to do a draft just for week 10, just for week 11 with real money, you can do this in literally any state other than Washington State, Nevada, Louisiana. Maybe there are one or two other ones that I'm missing out on. They have drafts and they also have player props. You know what a fantasy draft looks like. I don't necessarily need to show you what that looks like, but if you want to check out their player props, they have a ton of cool ones that you can go through and look at. And when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy and you use promo code FLOCK and you make your first deposit, they'll match you dollar for dollar up to a $100 deposit. So please make sure you go through and take advantage of that. I promise you, nothing supports this channel more. And oh my God, I just pulled up the live chat and we have a ton of people out here. Of course, thank you so much for anybody who's come out to the live stream. We're not going to be answering questions in this live stream because I am just going to be treating this as a video. So yeah, please don't donate or anything asking any questions. And also, if you have not already, please go down there, drop a like on the stream. Nothing helps us out more other than signing up for Underdog Fantasy, of course, which you can find that link in the comments section as well as in the description of the video. But let's go through, let's talk about some of these players here. We'll start it off with a player I'm very excited to bring up. Let's go over to Michael Gallup. And Gallup here officially activated off the IR. He is going to be playing against the Atlanta Falcons this week. Now, it's interesting because, I mean, here with Michael Gallup, this is a wide receiver that I would say we're excited about the long-term upside that we may have. Yet at the same time, I don't want to be playing him this week, but maybe I'm being irrational when I say that. Because I'm thinking that just how we treated with Jerry Jeudy, remember Jerry Jeudy, his first week back in, although, I mean, pretty much the entire season when he was working his way back from that injury, we were of the opinion Jerry Jeudy was the wide receiver one. You wanted to be selling Courtland Sutton, selling Noah Fant while they were at their peak, but we didn't want to play Jerry Jeudy his first week back in from that high ankle sprain, just because with those players, if they're returning from their significant injuries and they're a borderline play at best, even without the injury, why would we ever take that risk with them coming back in? Gallup, I want to take the same approach, but at the same time, like, this is a player that he has a great matchup this week. I mean, he is going up against the Atlanta Falcons, where if you're going over to Vegas, remember, I always say that, I mean, if you're looking at Vegas lines, Vegas knows more than myself. They know more than every single person watching this live stream right now. I promise you, if you ever think that you're going to be able to be a profitable sports bettor over the long haul, you are wrong. You can't do it. I can't do it. Nobody can. If you can, they'll limit you. They won't let you. But nonetheless, you're looking at them telling us that right now, Dallas is the projected #1 offense of the week. They're saying that Dallas is supposed to have the highest scoring offense of the week, which makes sense given the great matchup that they have against the Atlanta Falcons. So it's interesting. I'll say if you want to play Gallup, you can. One thing that I really want to bring up right now, I don't want to say this is the lock of the week for us on Underdog Fantasy, but right now you could go through and you could look at that Dalton Schultz line that they currently have at 51.5 receiving yards. I think I may be betting the under here because a big thing with Michael Gallup coming back in is I'm going to be expecting him, yes, to have a small hit to Amari Cooper, to have a small hit to CeeDee Lamb, but I think a big thing is with Michael Gallup, this is going to be a wide receiver that's taking away a lot of that value from Dalton Schultz in particular. Now, Blake Jarwin on the IR, of course, you like that for Dalton Schultz, but still at the same time, I think that we have to assume that Gallup's going to be seeing significantly more targets than what you've had with Cedric Wilson. We bring this up all the time, but Michael Gallup's a wide receiver that back in 2019, his second season in the NFL, he had more targets per game and more receiving yards per game than Amari Cooper over a very large sample. So that's kind of not to say anything bad about Amari. Rather, it's to kind of highlight the true talent that Michael Gallup has. I think he's going to be taking a lot of that volume away from Dalton Schultz over the middle of the field. So I definitely go through and try to take that under on Schultz. I definitely try to fade Gallup where we can. Now, our next situation is last I saw with this New England Patriots backfield. Looks like Damien Harris not going to be playing. Ramondre Stevenson, he's hopeful. And honestly, I would say that you're kind of hoping Stevenson does not play this game because if Stevenson is not going to play, then all of a sudden, I mean, Brandon Bolden is a running back that you can project to be a top 24 option. With Bolden, this is a running back that's essentially taken over as the James White player in this New England Patriots backfield with the James White injury, because you know Bill Belichick's never going to be allowing Damian Harris to get the involvement in the receiving game. Nonetheless, he's actually a running back that does have the build where he can handle work on first and second down. Now, of course, you'd expect J.J. Taylor to come out and J.J. Taylor to have a small role, maybe even a 50-50 split with Bolden in this backfield. And it's not necessarily a great matchup against the Cleveland Browns, but still in a full PPR format, knowing that he should be able to get 5 to 6 targets out of the backfield. And if he can get up to about 12 to 15 carries, Brandon Bolden would definitely be a running back that you'd want to play. Now, right now, if Ramondre Stevenson actually is able to make it in, I think it's probably a situation that we have to avoid everybody. I would be excited about Stevenson's upside, but I would be questioning the exact role that he would have in this offense. Maybe they would just turn it to a 3-man by committee. In that scenario, you're not excited about playing anybody here. So I really think the only scenario we're going to be playing a New England Patriots running back this week is maybe in a full PPR format. If you have no Damian Harris, no Ramondre Stevenson, then you can consider playing Brandon Bolden. I mean, if you have some injuries at the position. Now let's go over to our next player. Really quick, let's just talk. Chase Edmonds placed on the IR, so officially lock in James Conner as a low-end running back 1 over the next month. I mean, Conner, I know that this has been a running back that we were so wrong on to say sell high earlier this season. I didn't say it once. I didn't say it twice. I said it over and over and over again when he had the unsustainable touchdown rate. Well, it's a completely different scenario now with Chase Edmonds, a running back that was seeing 60 to 70% of his backfield snaps no longer being in this offense. Now you're going to be bumping up Benjamin to most likely about 25 to 30% of the snaps out of this Arizona Cardinals backfield. It's going to give James Conner the majority of the workload, and with Arizona, we know it's going to be one of the best offenses in the NFL. I have to be very excited about what we'll have with James Conner. Also, of course, Robert Woods out for the year. We'll just bring this up, even though we talked about it in the last video. Bump the hell up Odell Beckham Jr. from our initial reaction when Odell Beckham Jr. signed, and me saying that this was an automatic sell high candidate for us at the wide receiver position. And bump the hell up Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson was a wide receiver that we were talking about and getting very excited at the beginning of the week, considering the fact that he had turned into an every down player for the Los Angeles Rams, considering this offense exclusively runs 11 personnel, and they were giving 100% of the snaps to only Kupp, Woods, and Jefferson. I guess that's still going to be the exact same scenario. You're only just replacing Robert Woods with Odell Beckham Jr. You have to get excited about Van Jefferson as well, even though probably a lot of people, including myself, cut him after Odell Beckham Jr. did sign. Now our next situation will be the Green Bay Packers and the Seattle Seahawks here. You got Aaron Rodgers, good to go. Okay, so yeah, you're expecting Devontae Adams to be a top 3 wide receiver. You're expecting Aaron Jones to be a top 5 running back. Nothing to really talk about. You're not going to be starting anybody else in this scenario. The offense is extremely concentrated between those 2 players. And then also Russell Wilson, good to go. So, another thing that we got wrong, remember when I was coming out saying, hey, we know that DK Metcalf is that elite talent at the wide receiver position, but we want to be fading whenever we have Geno Smith here and maybe buying low later on in this. I was stupid. We were wrong. Geno Smith, had 195 passing yards the week before the bye, and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett accounted for 185 of those yards. Yes, of course, Seattle's always been a concentrated offense, but I have never seen anything of the sort with that type of target distribution. So yeah, you're bumping the hell up DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Side note, for those deep dynasty formats, I am interested to see if Dwayne Eskridge can get on the field this week. He is coming off the IR. I believe he had a concussion, but you're not going to be worrying about that in a regular league. Now, our next update will be Zach Moss is good to go for Buffalo. And with Zach Moss, yeah, you're going to go through. You're going to be playing Zach Moss wherever you can because, going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the live stream, Vegas knows more than any of us here. Vegas knows more than myself, anybody watching this video. And yes, Buffalo disappointed last week, but Las Vegas has the implied team total for the Buffalo Bills as a top 3 offense this week. So you have to be looking at Zach Moss and saying, okay, if the production is going to be up there, you're most likely just going to be plugging and playing Zach Moss as a low-end running back. I don't want to say that. He'll be a mid-running back too. I know that if you're looking at the production last week, he didn't necessarily look to be in that range, and also a very nice matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, he got an injury. He was concussed. I think that you can completely throw out that game. Zach Moss will be the running back in the red zone, be a ton of red zone opportunities. Now, our next update, Julio Jones tweaked his hamstring Thursday. I guess this is why Atlanta went through and moved on from Julio Jones for really whatever they could get. And Atlanta probably made the right call here because now Julio Jones looks like he maybe he's not going to be 100% in a tough matchup against the New Orleans Saints. So Julio, I think that we already kind of covered this previously on another video. You're not starting him. You're definitely not starting him now when he tweaks a hamstring in practice. Julio Jones clearly just cannot stay healthy. I think at this point, maybe in a best ball format, you can hope that we get a spike week coming out sometime soon, but to go through and ever expect him to be able to string together 6+ games, maybe it's just a lost cause. Now, our next update will be Alvin Kamara officially out. We had a lot of questions in the live stream last night. Mason, should I start Mark Ingram or running back X? Mason, should I start Mark Ingram or wide receiver X for the flex spot? Start Mark Ingram. This is a running back, though. Let's go through. Let's look at the past 2 weeks since he's gone over to New Orleans. Now, you naturally assume that Mark Ingram is going to be able to continue to expand his role, considering this is a running back that just got added back onto this team. Nonetheless, with Mark Ingram, this is a running back that a week ago against the Atlanta Falcons, yeah, I mean, it wasn't necessarily fantastic with the fantasy production he had. He came away with 11 fantasy points, but the workload is what's very promising. He actually had 5 receptions out of this backfield a week ago, 5 receptions in a game where Alvin Kamara played. So they were already getting Mark Ingram some involvement in the receiving game here. Now that you remove Alvin Kamara, this 9 rushing attempt, 5 reception game from, Mark Ingram, I know it's not the best matchup in the world. It's not that bad against the Tennessee Titans. It's probably going to be going up to, this is a running back getting 20 carries. This is a running back that's getting 3 or 4 receptions out of the backfield. Yeah, hell yeah, you're playing Mark Ingram everywhere you can. Not a talented running back by any means, but at the end of the day, this is a running back that the workload is going to be very promising. You have to play you have to play Ingram everywhere you can. Now, James Robinson looks like he's probably going to be good to go this week. Now, it's going to be a fine matchup against Indianapolis. Obviously, you're not excited about the offense that you have in Jacksonville. Maybe you get some usage for Carlos Hyde here. Maybe it's more back what we had in week 1, week 2, or if you remember, Carlos Hyde was a running back that was getting about 40% of the opportunities in Jacksonville. Maybe that's going to be the case. I still think that James Robinson, probably if he's active, he's going to be a running back that we're playing nonetheless, knowing the involvement that he has in the receiving game, in the red zone. He's getting all the valuable touches in that offense. Even if Carlos Hyde's going to be siphoning away some of those carries between the 20-yard lines, what do we talk about over and over and over again? The only thing that matters here is going to be the targets out of the backfield and the usage in the red zone. Those are the valuable touches. That's us chasing Aaron Jones. That's us chasing Alvin Kamara. That's why we were chasing DeAndre Swift coming into this season. Doesn't really matter if you have Jamal Williams, A.J. Dillon, Carlos Hyde getting those carries between the 20-yard lines. They just aren't high-value touches. They're empty-calorie touches that don't really matter. I would probably play James Robinson if he's going to be active. Now, Chris Carson, not going to play with Chris Carson here. You're most likely not plugging in Alex Collins just as a direct replacement, just because with Collins, this was a running back going into the bye week. More and more, this running back room was just turning into a running back by committee. You had the workload for DJ Dallas, obviously Collins dealing with an injury of his own right, but still, I think that we're probably going to be avoiding every running back that we can in Seattle because it's going to be a low volume offense, and at the same time, it's just not going to be concentrated in the slide. It's the exact opposite of what you have with the receiving game there, where we know it's funneled through 2 players and 2 players only. At running back, they're just spreading it out, so I don't necessarily think that we can go through and play really anybody at running back. Now, Jamal Williams not going to be playing in Detroit. Doesn't change much. You don't play Jamal Williams and fire the hell up DeAndre Swift. With DeAndre Swift, this is a running back that we've loved for a very long time. I guess that Jamal Williams is not going to be playing. Maybe you get an extra 6 carries this game for DeAndre. Not going to be that big of a deal. Now, Chase Claypool not going to play. So this is one thing that I definitely need to bring up because honestly, it's embarrassing. If you go pull up my wide receiver ranking video this week, we ranked Deontay Johnson as a mid wide receiver 2. It's embarrassing. That should not be accepted. If you're looking at Deontay Johnson, he has that fantastic matchup this week against the Detroit Lions. If we're going to go over to Underdog Fantasy, of course, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK. They currently have Deontay Johnson at 74.5 receiving yards. I think that this is a wide receiver that we're most likely going to be trying to take advantage of the matchup, and as well as the fact that he is essentially guaranteed at the minimum. 12 targets. This is a wide receiver already getting double-digit targets every single week. You remove Juju, you remove Chase Claypool, fire up Deontay Johnson. Now, Pat Freiermuth, going to be intriguing because Eric Ebron is fully good to go. Ebron has been a tight end getting about 2 to 3 targets every single week. He has been healthy so far this season. So I know a lot of people really want to go through and bet in on Pat Freiermuth. I understand it. He has been unbelievable. And if we're going over to Underdog Fantasy really quick, they currently have him for 37.5 receiving yards. I honestly may be betting the under here. I'm going to make a betting video for Underdog Fantasy probably a little bit later today where I'll go through and I'll make some official bets. You're going to have to think about that one a little bit, but it's just interesting because we are going to have to project what you get with the workload for Eric Ebron here. And I mean, with Pat Freiermuth, he will definitely be the tight end one in Pittsburgh. I mean, I think he has proven that by now, but if he is the tight end one that's been getting 6 to 7 targets so far in Pittsburgh over the past few weeks, and then all of a sudden Ebron comes in, he steals 2 to 3 of those targets. Can we play Pat Freiermuth, the rookie tight end, if he's only going to get 4? I know he's going to have the role in the red zone, but I still think we probably need to be a little bit concerned. Okay, so now our next update, Nick Chubb, Demetric Felton, both on the COVID list, neither of them playing. Obviously, Kareem Hunt on the IR, and that means Dearness Johnson, you play him everywhere that you can. I mean, with Dearness Johnson, this is a running back that is literally just the exact same situation as Mark Ingram. He is the only active running back on the roster. What happens if Dearness Johnson goes down? I don't know. I have no idea. Nonetheless, I mean, with Dearness Johnson, this was a running back. Last time we saw him in this scenario, Demetric Felton was playing, so it's a little bit different. This is a better game flow than he'll actually have that last time, but he did get 22 carries. He obviously had a great performance on Thursday night in a tough matchup. I believe that was against the Denver Broncos. Don't hold me to that if I was a little bit off there. But yeah, no, I believe he also went for 171 rushing yards. Let me pull this up just to make sure I'm not embarrassing myself, because that would be pretty damn embarrassing if I was. But yeah, nonetheless, I mean, it just boils down to the fact that you're playing Dearness Johnson everywhere you can. I'm going to look at what they have for him on Underdog Fantasy. Yeah, actually, no, he had 146 rushing yards. He had 22 receiving yards. So he was actually up there at 168 yards, not 171. So I apologize for that. Nonetheless, if we're going to be looking at what you have for him right now on Underdog Fantasy, I mean, they have him ranked in a pretty aggressive range. They have him at 78.5 rushing yards. I mean, I think that if you're looking at that, knowing that he is also going to get some involvement in the receiving game, that makes him a must-start running back, even if it's a little bit of a tougher matchup here against the New England Patriots. Okay. So now our next question is going to be, our next update is going to be that Buffalo Bills situation. Dawson Knox, 100% good to go. Dawson Knox not even on the injury report. So yeah, you can play Dawson Knox wherever you want. I will say with Knox, this is a tight end that's been averaging about 5 targets a game so far this season. Now I know that the touchdown rate is absurd. He is literally scoring touchdowns at a higher rate than Robert Tonyan was last year. Y'all know we were avoiding Robert Tonyan everywhere we could in drafts coming into this season, because to look at a tight end there that's getting a touchdown every 5 to 7 targets, there's no way in hell that can continue to happen. So Dawson Knox, he will regress. If you could package him together with the wide receiver to get an upgrade at the tight end spot, maybe to get someone like Dallas Goedert, I think I'd be really intrigued with that. Nonetheless, I mean, Dawson Knox, he is someone that you could go through and you can play him this week. Now our next update, going to be something I have no idea what to say. Rondale Moore, game time decision. DeAndre Hopkins, game time decision. Most importantly, Kyler Murray, game time decision. And what sucks is we're in the same exact situation as we were last week. This is an Arizona game, so we know it's on the West Coast. So we know this is going to be a game that's getting kicked off at 4 p.m., not on at 1 p.m. So now we need to be looking at this and saying, well, we kind of have to just go through and maybe look for better options, because I would be surprised if all of a sudden, I mean, Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, after not really practicing this week, are good to go. So I think that you honestly have to be, I don't want to say have to. Christian Kirk, AJ Green are very appealing, knowing that, yes, with Colt McCoy, you're not that excited about this offense, and this offense will regress from where it was a week ago. Still, just given how they're really not going to be left with anybody outside of those 2 wide receivers with Kirk and AJ Green on the outside, Christian Kirk on the inside, I think Kirk is a very appealing play this week. The issue is, it's just so hard to know exactly what to expect when every single one of these players is a game time decision. I would say, based on Arizona just leading that division and crushing at the moment, I mean, they're pretty much guaranteed a playoff spot. I would be surprised if they feel the need to rush back DeAndre Hopkins or Kyler Murray. So I would be expecting them to honestly probably miss this game. Okay. So now our next update, we'll be going over to Tampa. Very similar situation. I mean, Gronk out, Antonio Brown out, Chris Godwin, game time decision. Godwin did practice on Friday. Now, it's going to be nice with Tampa. I believe this game's going to be getting played at 1 p.m. Let me go through and double check. Yeah, so that game is going to get played at 1 p.m. against Washington. Washington has had a very bad pass defense so far this season. I mean, it's funny if you're looking at the Washington pass defense, it's been one of the worst in the league. Their run defense has been one of the best in the leagues. So I think that, yes, if Godwin plays, you play Godwin everywhere you can. It's really nice that we will have that clarity. If Godwin does not play, I think that we could be in a position where we can all of a sudden go and possibly play Tyler Johnson. Now, if Tyler Johnson is going to be a wide receiver in your flex spot, you're not that excited, but at least he has the upside, because Tom Brady right now, I mean, if you're looking at the projection on Underdog Fantasy, keep in mind, Underdog Fantasy, I mean, they're paying me to get you to sign up. They're paying you to sign up. So we can all safely say that Underdog Fantasy knows more than most of the people here, or they wouldn't be doing that. And they currently have Tom Brady projected for 301 passing yards. So yeah, we know the passing volume will be there in Tampa. I think that if Godwin doesn't play, you can play Tyler Johnson, even though we were saying not to a while ago. Now, our last update, not going to be that long here. I mean, we have Corey Davis, going to be good, going to come back this week. Tevin Coleman, also going to come back. I just think that makes it where you can't start Elijah Moore, and I'd probably be looking for a better option over Michael Carter, because it's a very tough matchup nonetheless against the Buffalo Bills. So if we're going to get some of these other skill positional players back in, I'm not expecting Tevin Coleman to be the running back one in New York by any means, but I am going to be looking at Tevin Coleman saying, okay, well, what happens if he just is able to get 6 touches in this offense? He's able to take 6 touches away from Michael Carter. Then all of a sudden, we probably can't be starting Carter in a very tough matchup. So I think that we would prefer to go through and avoid both of those players. Okay, Froly King Heifer coming out says Julio's on the IR, according to Ian Rappaport's Twitter via 5 minutes ago. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I guess we got to talk about Julio Jones a little bit more here. Okay, so I guess Julio Jones, I don't want to say this is a wide receiver that you can go out and cut, because of course with Julio, it's going to be someone, if you can just throw him on the IR, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And okay, really quick also, if you have not dropped a like on this live stream, go down there, drop a like on the stream right now before we get into Julio Jones. And nothing sports this channel more. We're going to live stream 4 times today. Okay, so if we're live streaming, actually we got the video this morning, then the Odell / Robert Woods, this one, and then we're going to have the Underdog player props one where I go through and I show y'all my player props and the bets I'm making on Underdog Fantasy. And then we're going to do the Q&A tonight. We're doing 5 live streams, and I could not be more sick than I am. Go down there, drop that like, subscribe to the channel. But nonetheless, if we're going to be looking at Julio Jones going on the IR, okay, well, A.J. Brown, he's bumping up. Okay, if we're going to be looking at our rest of season rankings on where we're going to have A.J. Brown, I'm pretty sure they just released Josh Reynolds as well. I'm pretty sure Josh Reynolds asked to be off this team. I mean, I think that we already had A.J. Brown in a very aggressive spot. So let me run over to Patreon really quick. Of course, y'all can always go join the flock on Patreon. We have our rankings up to date every single week on Patreon. I mean, every week we update our rankings. We update our dynasty rankings. I mean, obviously you get a podcast breaking down your fantasy team whenever you join, but let me run over to Patreon really quick. Just that way we can go through and we can look at where we'll be moving AJ Brown to. And right now on our rest of season rankings for AJ Brown, I had him as wide receiver 4. I can't be moving AJ Brown up any higher than that. I don't know if I can move AJ Brown up above Tyreek Hill, above Devontae Adams, above Cooper Kupp. So yeah, I'm going to be putting AJ Brown most likely in the same tier as Tyreek Hill. That's what I'll do right now. I think AJ Brown's going to be in the same tier as Tyreek Hill. He's going to be joining Tyreek Hill as the 2 wide receivers in our second tier there, but he's still going to be our wide receiver for rest of season. Outside of that, don't necessarily think we need to be adjusting too much on Julio Jones himself. I mean, there are not going to be any other wide receiver options that we're excited about. Ooh, you know what we can do really quick? Let's run over to Underdog Fantasy and let's see if we can snipe a line. Let's see if we can snipe a line on Julio Jones. Did they take down any lines here? Okay, so run over to Underdog Fantasy really quick. If you've already signed up with promo code FLOCK, run over to Underdog Fantasy. Take the under on Tannehill if we have no Julio Jones in this contest. Now, they're also going to be going to, you know what sucks? Oh my gosh. They don't have the New Orleans Saints lines up yet. Oh my gosh. I don't think we're going to be able to take advantage of that yet because they don't have the New Orleans Saints lines because they're waiting, I'm assuming, to see exactly who the starting quarterback is going to be there. Anyway, go use promo code FLOCK in Underdog Fantasy. Go check out some of those player props. When you use promo code FLOCK, make that first deposit. They match you dollar for dollar up to $100 in the deposit. Nothing supports this channel more. But of course, thank you so much for all coming out to the live stream. I'll be live again in a little bit, going through and looking at some more of those prop bets in depth on Underdog Fantasy to be making our $1,000 bankroll challenge. And then tonight we'll be live streaming with our Q&A session. So please make sure you subscribe to the channel,